Before England could become a kingdom, it first had to survive a morning like this. You wake before sunrise in a low wooden house somewhere in Wessex, in the winter of 878, and for a few seconds you do not move. The first thing you notice is not history. It is the cold. It is in the packed dirt floor beneath you, in the damp wool pulled over your shoulders, in the stale air trapped under the thatched roof. Your breath hangs faintly in the dark, then disappears into the smoke that never fully leaves the room. The fire in the center of the house has sunk to a dull red glow. Someone fed it in the night, but not enough. Fuel has to be saved. Winter is not finished with you yet. Around you, your family sleeps close together, not because it is tender or picturesque, but because bodies make heat and heat is life. A child coughs beside the wall. An older woman turns under a rough blanket. Somewhere near the doorway, a dog lifts its head and listens. That is when everyone becomes still. Outside, beyond the wooden door, beyond the yard, beyond the dark line of the fields, there is a sound. Maybe it is only wind moving through bare branches. Maybe it is a pig shifting near the fence. Maybe it is a traveler on the road. But in Wessex in 878, you do not assume sounds are harmless. You wait. You listen. You count the heartbeats in your own chest. This is not the England of stone castles and shining armor. Those things belong to later centuries, to stories told after the danger has been cleaned and polished. The England you wake into is made of timber, mud, smoke, iron, hunger, prayer, and fear. The roads are not safe ribbons crossing a nation. They are old Roman tracks, broken in places, swallowed by weeds, turning to deep mud when the rain comes. The villages are scattered. The farms are small. The nearest great lord may be many miles away, and the king, Alfred, is more a name carried in rumor than a man you expect to see. You have heard that he is still alive. You have heard that he has fled. You have heard that the Vikings are everywhere. You have heard many things, and in a world without newspapers, telephones, radios, or glowing screens, a rumor can enter a village like bad weather and stay there for days. Still, morning is coming. Whether kingdoms fall or kings hide in marshes, someone has to stir the fire. Someone has to break the hard bread. Someone has to check the animals, carry water, patch the roof, and see whether the road outside is empty. That is what England under Alfred really feels like at first. Not a crown, not a battle, not a legend. Just a cold room, a weak fire, a family holding its breath, and a country so close to disappearing that even the darkness outside seems to be listening. Outside the house, the world is not yet fully awake, but it is already working against you. The door opens with a stiff wooden groan, and the cold comes in at once, sharp enough to make your eyes water. The yard is black mud hardened at the edges by frost. A thin skin of ice has formed on the water pail. The fence leans where last week's rain softened the ground. Beyond it, the fields lie quiet under a pale winter sky, not empty, exactly, but waiting. Everything in this place feels unfinished. The house is low. The roof is patched with old thatch. The walls are wattle and daub, woven sticks packed with clay and straw, good enough to stand, never good enough to let you forget the weather. There is no glass in the small openings, only shutters. No brick chimney carrying smoke cleanly away. No iron stove giving steady heat. No warm room waiting behind another door. This is shelter, not comfort. And the same is true of the village around you. A few houses sit close together as if they are afraid to be alone. Smoke rises from roof holes and thin gray lines. Chickens scratch near a fence. A pig noses the frozen ground. Somewhere, an axe strikes wood with a dull, careful rhythm. There are no stone towers here. No paved streets. No banners snapping above noble walls. If you expected an old kingdom dressed in grandeur, you would not recognize this place as the beginning of one. In the distance, the road is only a track, dark and wet, pressed into the earth by carts, hooves, and feet. Mark it if the weather holds and the path has not flooded. It may also bring strangers, and that is why people look at it more often than they admit. In your world, distance is not measured only in miles. It is measured in danger, daylight, weather, and whether your shoes will hold together long enough to get home. A few miles can be the edge of everything you know. The England you think of does not exist here. There is no single strong nation stretching confidently across the island. There is no shared sense that everyone from the southern coast to the northern hills belongs to one settled country. There are kingdoms, loyalties, church lands, family ties, old borders, and local fears. A person in this village knows the names of fields, streams, saints, neighbors, and the Lord who can demand labor or fighting men. He may know Alfred's name, and he may pray that name still means protection. But he does not wake thinking about a nation. He wakes thinking about the fire, the animals, the bread, the roof, the road, and the next hard hour. This is the first illusion that has to fall away. The past was not waiting to become the world you know. It was its own world, narrow, physical, uncertain, and alive under your feet. By the time the first gray light spreads across the fields, the village has begun to trade silence for rumor. It starts near the path, where a man has arrived with mud up to his knees and a face that looks older than it should. He is not from here. That alone makes people careful. In a safer age, a stranger might mean news, trade, or a story worth hearing by the fire. In this winter, a stranger means questions nobody wants answered too quickly. Where did he come from? Which roads did he take? Who did he pass? What has he seen? The men gather first, then the women within hearing distance, hands still busy with pails, bread, wool, children, animals, because fear does not excuse anyone from work. The stranger speaks quietly, but the quiet makes it worse. The north is gone, he says. Not in one clean moment, not like a door closing, but field by field, hall by hall, lord by lord, until old names no longer feel safe to say aloud. Northumbria, once a kingdom with churches, farms, warriors, and proud families, is no longer a shield you can imagine standing above you. East Anglia has fallen too, a flat land of rivers, fields, and old settlements now living under men whose speech sounds different around the hearth. Mercia, the great Middle Kingdom, has been broken into pieces, part of it pulled under foreign rule, part of it clinging to what protection Wessex can still offer. To a modern eye, these names sit on a map. To you, they arrive as human weather. A cousin who stopped sending word. A trader who no longer takes the eastern road. A priest who says a monastery has emptied its storehouse and hidden its books. A family with 2 bundles and no clear plans sleeping near the church wall. This is how collapse reaches a village, not as a line moving across parchment, but as missing voices, closed paths, unfamiliar coins, and people who look behind them even when no one is there. And now there is Wessex. Only Wessex, or so the rumor says. The last broad piece of Anglo-Saxon ground still standing free in the south, with its chalk hills, wet meadows, oak woods, small farms, old Roman roads, and winter villages trying to keep smoke in the air. You hear Alfred's name again, but it no longer sounds like the name of a distant king. It sounds like a hinge. If he holds, perhaps the door stays shut a little longer. If he fails, everything beyond that door may come through. Nobody says this in grand words. People in your village do not speak like books. They speak in glances, in lowered voices, in the way a man checks the handle of a spear that has not left the corner of his house for months, in the way a mother counts how many loaves can be made from what remains in the sack. The map of England is breaking, but you feel it first in your stomach. By mid-morning, Alfred's name has moved through the village like smoke, thin at first, then everywhere. You hear it near the well, where women haul water with red hands and bent shoulders. You hear it outside the small church, where the priest speaks softly to a man who wants certainty and receives none. You hear it beside the animal pen, where 2 older men argue over weather. The king is gathering men, hiding in the marshes, praying in some cold wooden hall, or already planning the next move. Nobody knows enough. Everyone knows too much. That is how royal power feels from the ground. It is not a crown you can see. It is a rumor that decides whether your son may be called away, whether your grain may be counted, whether the road to market will stay open, whether the stranger at the edge of the village is carrying warning or only hunger. Alfred is not a statue here. He is not a painted king in a book. He is a living question. Is he still strong enough to hold Wessex together? Can he bring scattered men back under one command? Can he keep the old laws from becoming only memories? Can he protect the churches, the farms, the roads, the winter stores, the names of places, the language spoken over the fire? For people like you, loyalty is not abstract. It has weight. It is measured in labor, food, walking miles in bad weather, standing watch when your feet are numb, leaving a field half-finished because someone higher than you has sent word. A king may command, but the village pays for the command in hands, backs, and empty hours. Still, the alternative is worse. Without a king, every settlement becomes smaller. Every road becomes longer. Every family begins to live behind its own door. Alfred matters because he is one of the few things larger than fear. Not larger than hunger. Hunger is always close. Not larger than winter. Winter has its own kingdom. But larger than the village, larger than the next field, larger than the panic that makes people think only of themselves. His power is fragile because everything around him is fragile. Messages travel by horse, by foot, by memory. A plan made in one place can arrive late in another. A command can be misunderstood, delayed, or swallowed by rain and mud. A man may leave to serve and return to find his roof leaking, his animals thin, his children older by a season of worry. This is the burden hidden inside the word kingdom. From far away, it sounds like order. From inside your body, it feels like being tied to people you may never meet, trusting decisions you may never hear explained, and hoping the man whose name crosses your village at the well is still alive when the sun goes down. By noon, the village has stopped talking about the kingdom for a while, not because the danger has passed, but because hunger is more immediate than history. The fire must be fed. The animals must be checked. The bread must be stretched. Inside your house, the air is thick with wood smoke and the sour warmth of people, wool, ash, and damp straw. Your eyes sting before you think to rub them. The floor is hard earth, swept but never truly clean, pressed flat by years of feet, boots, spilled ale, and winter mud carried in from the yard. Near the wall, a wooden chest holds the things your family cannot afford to lose: a little cloth, a knife, a few tools, maybe a small object blessed by the priest, maybe something passed down from a grandparent whose world already felt old. Nothing here is decorative in the modern sense. Everything either keeps you alive, proves who you are, or reminds you whom you belong to. The meal is plain. A piece of coarse bread, dark and heavy, made from grain that has to last longer than anyone wants to admit. A little cheese if the household is fortunate. Pottage simmering in a pot, thickened with whatever can be spared. Beans, leeks, onions, oats, greens when the season allows. Ale is safer than water when water cannot be trusted, but it is weak, cloudy, and ordinary, something even children may drink in small amounts because thirst does not wait for better choices. There is no fork laid neatly beside a plate. No clean table set for comfort. Food is eaten from wooden bowls, with fingers, knives, and patience. Every bite carries calculation. How much is left? How long until spring? What can be traded? What must be hidden? What must be saved for seed? Outside, work continues because the body has no holiday from the past. Someone hauls water from a well or stream, the weight pulling at the arms until the shoulders ache. Someone cuts wood, each strike careful because iron tools matter and a damaged blade is not a small inconvenience. Someone checks the pigs, the sheep, the cow if the family owns one, because animals are not background noise. They are walking wealth. Milk, wool, meat, manure, labor, status, winter survival. Lose an animal, and the loss can echo for months. Clothing is another kind of labor wrapped around the body. Linen close to the skin if you have it, wool over it, rough, smoky, often damp, patched where elbows and knees have worn through. Shoes are simple and precious. Wet feet are not merely uncomfortable. They are a problem that can become pain, then weakness, then something the household cannot spare. This is daily life beneath royal crisis. Not dramatic, not noble, not simple. 1,000 small tasks repeated until they become invisible. And that is exactly why they matter. While men speak Alfred's name and wonder whether Wessex can hold, the village survives by hands moving through ordinary work. Kneading, carrying, mending, feeding, sweeping, watching, listening. A kingdom may be defended by rulers and armies, but it is kept alive by people who have no time to be remembered. By early afternoon, the thought of Winchester begins to feel almost unreal, as if the heart of Wessex belongs to a different world than the mud around your own door. You have never seen it, or perhaps you saw it once as a child from the back of a cart, but everyone knows its name. Winchester is where power gathers itself before it travels outward in commands, messengers, taxes, judgments, prayers, and fear. Do not imagine a grand capital of marble and wide, clean streets. Imagine an old Roman shell still being used because no one can afford to waste strong walls. Imagine patched stone, timber repairs, gates that creak, muddy lanes, crowded yards, smoke rising between wooden houses, and people moving with the tense purpose of those who know their city matters. Its walls are not beautiful in the way later castles will be beautiful. They are useful. They say that this place must not fall apart. Inside them are storehouses, churches, workshops, royal buildings, clerks with ink-stained fingers, priests with cold hands, merchants watching the roads, and men who listen for news the way farmers listen for thunder. Winchester is not large by modern standards. A person from a modern American town might walk across its busiest parts faster than expected. But in your world, size is not measured by pavement, traffic, or lights. It is measured by what a place holds. Winchester holds treasure, memory, law, church authority, royal business, and the fragile idea that Wessex is still more than scattered villages waiting for bad news. Somewhere within those walls, Alfred's servants may be counting supplies. Someone may be copying words onto parchment by weak light. Someone may be receiving a messenger whose horse has come in wet, tired, and flecked with road dirt. Someone may be trying to turn fear into instructions. Repair this wall. Watch that road. Gather those men. Move that food. Send word before nightfall. From your village, such decisions arrive stripped of their rooms and faces. A man comes down the track, or the priest repeats an order after prayer, or the reeve calls households together and tells them what must be done. You do not see the royal hall. You feel it in your back, in the hours taken from your field, in the grain counted more carefully, in the knowledge that a kingdom has a center, and that center can reach into your yard. Yet even Winchester is not safe in the way a modern person would understand safety. Its streets are dark after sunset. Its houses are mostly timber. Its water must be carried. Its fires must be watched. Its food must come from the countryside, from villages like yours, from hands like yours. That is the truth hidden inside a royal city. It looks like authority from a distance, but up close it is still wood, smoke, mud, hunger, ledgers, bells, tired horses, and men trying to keep a small light burning while the island around them changes. Late afternoon is when the village begins to listen harder. The work does not stop, but it changes shape. Axes fall more slowly. Voices drop near the road. A woman pauses with a bucket in both hands because a bird has risen suddenly from the hedge. A boy sent to gather kindling comes back faster than he needs to, pretending he is not afraid. This is what the shadow from the north and east does to ordinary life. It does not need to stand in your yard to rule the hour. It lives in the spaces between sounds. It lives in the way people look toward the tree line before crossing an open field. It lives in the way a family stores grain where it can be reached quickly, then wonders whether that is wisdom or foolishness. You have heard stories, of course. Everyone has heard stories. Stories from traders, from travelers, from people who left one place and arrived in another with too few belongings and too many pauses in their speech. Some stories are probably wrong. Some are made larger by fear. Some are too quiet to be doubted. But the exact truth matters less than the effect. The effect is that every road now has a second meaning. A road can bring salt, iron, news, a priest, a cousin, a cart wheel that needs mending. It can also bring a change you cannot undo. So the village watches, not with heroism, with habit, with tired eyes, with people who would rather think about bread and animals and winter repairs, but cannot stop counting the distance between the last house and the first bend in the track. Inside your home, the evening meal is prepared without much speaking. The fire has been coaxed higher, but the room is still cold near the floor. Smoke gathers above your head. The child who coughed in the morning has fallen quiet, which is almost worse than the coughing. Your mother or wife tears bread into smaller pieces than yesterday. Someone asks whether the animals should be brought closer to the house before dark. Someone else says they already should have been. Nobody raises their voice. In this world, fear often sounds like practical conversation. Should the gate be tied again? Should the dog stay inside? Should the oldest boy sleep near the door? Should a small bundle be kept ready? A cloak? A knife? A little bread? Something blessed. Not because anyone expects to leave tonight, but because not preparing feels like tempting the darkness. As the sun sinks, The village seems to shrink. The fields become gray. The road becomes a strip of shadow. The trees lose their branches and become one dark edge. Somewhere, a church bell marks the hour, thin and human against the wide cold. You understand then that the greatest pressure on Wessex is not only what might happen in open fields or distant halls. It is the way uncertainty enters a house before nightfall, sits beside the fire, and teaches every person to sleep lightly. By nightfall, it would be easy for someone from your world to look at this village and see only what it lacks. No electric light, no clean running water, no glass windows, no hospital waiting beyond the next road, no warm bed in a private room, no clock to promise that the night will end at a certain hour. From a distance, it can look small, poor, and helpless. But that is because modern eyes often mistake discomfort for failure. The people around you are not failed versions of you. They are not unfinished modern people waiting for history to improve them. They belong completely to their own world, and that world has trained them in ways yours has not. They know how to read weather from the feel of the air. They know when a roof needs patching before rain announces itself. They know the sound of a healthy animal and the sound of one that will need watching through the night. They know which wood smokes badly, which path floods first, which neighbor can be trusted with a tool, which family has extra hands, which prayer is said when fear has no other shape. A woman by the fire does not need a written recipe to make a thin meal feed more people than it should. An old man does not need a map to know where the ground rises above winter water. A child learns early that silence can be useful, that warmth is shared, that food is not wasted, that work is not something waiting for adulthood. Their knowledge is not soft. It is carried in hands, backs, scars, habits, and memory. It is practical, local, and earned. You might pity the smoke in their house, the roughness of their clothes, the darkness pressing against their door. But if you were left here with all your modern confidence and none of your modern tools, the pity would not last long. The house you judged crude would become shelter. The weak ale you ignored would become safer than a questionable stream. The smoky fire you hated would become the thing standing between your family and the cold. The village gossip you dismissed would become the warning system. The church bell would become time, order, comfort, and alarm. This is the reframe you have to carry into the dark. Harsh does not mean simple. Poor does not mean stupid. Vulnerable does not mean passive. These people are living inside a system built from what the land allows. Wood, wool, grain, animals, faith, kinship, labor, and repetition. It is not romantic. It is not clean. It is not fair. But it works often enough for children to grow, fields to be planted, songs to be remembered, and a kingdom to have something worth defending. When you look again at the dim room, the mud by the threshold, the smoke-stained roof beams, and the faces turned toward the fire, you are not looking at people beneath history. You are looking at the people holding history up. Later, when the house has gone quiet again, you lie awake and listen to the small sounds that make up the edge of survival. The fire settles with a soft crack. The dog shifts near the door. Someone breathes unevenly beneath a wool blanket. Outside, the wind moves across the fields and presses against the thatch as if testing every weak place. Nothing grand happens in this moment. No crown is lifted. No border is drawn. No song is written. But this is where the meaning of the year begins to settle into your bones. A kingdom is not only made in royal halls. It is made in rooms like this, where people keep children warm, guard the last grain, repair what weather breaks, and wake again even when the road beyond the village feels unsafe. Somewhere beyond the darkness, Alfred may be hiding, planning, praying, gathering men, or simply trying to stay one step ahead of disaster. You do not know. You cannot know. His life belongs to rumors, messengers, marsh paths, cold counsels, and decisions that will reach you late, if they reach you at all. But the world beneath him is here, breathing in the dark. It is the woman who rises before dawn to stir the embers. It is the old man who remembers when another king's name was spoken with confidence. It is the child learning the shape of fear before learning the shape of a map. It is the farmer who looks at the sky and the road with the same careful suspicion. This is how close England comes to vanishing, not as a dramatic ending, but as a thinning of certainty. Fewer safe roads, fewer trusted names, fewer full storehouses, fewer nights of easy sleep. And yet the fire does not go out. That matters. The next morning will still demand water, bread, animals, tools, prayer, and work. The village will rise because it must. Winchester will wait behind its repaired walls. The churches will ring their bells. Messengers will take to the roads. People will carry news, grain, fear, faith, and orders from place to place, stitching the South together with tired feet and stubborn memory. Later generations may look back and see a turning point, a king, a campaign, the beginning of something larger. But for you, inside this low house in Wessex, history is smaller and heavier. It is the cold in your fingers before sunrise. It is smoke in your lungs. It is bread divided carefully. It is the silence after a dog barks in the dark. And now, when you imagine this world, you should not see a finished England shining in old glory. See a weak flame cupped by rough hands. See mud at the threshold. See faces lit by firelight, tired but still awake. See a people who do not know whether their world will survive, and who rise anyway.